Hey YouTube, it's Mike, and today I'm going to share with you my thoughts about how to keep the destructive narcissist, borderline, whatever your cluster B of choice is, how to keep them away from you, how to keep them from being attracted to you. So if you're not familiar with this channel, these links are from my other channel, by the way, so you don't have to pay attention to those. But this channel is the Surviving BPD Relationships Breakup channel. And the point of this channel is to help people who do not have personality disorders, who have been or are currently in romantic relationships with a borderline or a narcissist, how to help you 100% completely heal and recover from that relationship. I don't make any guarantees about anything else in your life, but I do know how you can completely heal yourself from the pain, the trauma, and the damage from a romantic relationship with somebody who suffers from a cluster B personality disorder. Now, I am not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, and I am not a mental health professional. I do not, to the best of my knowledge, suffer from any type of personality disorder. I am somebody who was involved with somebody who had untreated, undiagnosed, very toxic borderline personality disorder. One of the most beautiful people I've ever known, somebody whom I enjoyed thoroughly on every single level, except for the fact that they had a very destructive personality disorder, which made her incapable of having a loving, constructive relationship. She was incapable in her current state from causing me tremendous damage and harm. So, those of you who have been in this relationship know exactly what I'm talking about. You also know the horrific pain that these relationships can cause you. You also know how incredibly difficult, if not impossible, it is to leave these people. There's just something about a cluster B personality disordered individual that makes them like quicksand. Once you get one foot in that relationship, no matter how hard you kick, you just get pulled further and further into that relationship. And so it doesn't matter how conscious you are of how toxic it is. You by yourself do not have the ability to up and leave. If you do, you're one of the lucky few. But like most of us, usually what happens is you will get dumped. You will get discarded. And that is how the relationship ends. But the pain does not end just because the relationship is over. In fact, the way that I have experienced it and observed it, once you have gotten into one of these romantic relationships with a narcissist or a borderline, if they are untreated especially, what happens is the damage that is caused as a result of your choice to stay in the relationship, the damage that has been caused to you acts like an addiction or an infection. It's like a mental infection, an emotional, psychological, one might even say a spiritual infection. It gets inside of you. It feels that way, and it gets worse over time. There are people who've been out of their relationships 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, and they are still suffering from the pain. In fact, in the last video, I talked about somebody who wanted to force me into admitting that I still have at least a little bit of pain associated with my borderline ex. And that's because, and I understand that is because when you've experienced that pain and it continues to stay with you and it erupts and goes away, it's very hard to imagine ever being without it. And I listen. This is it. I make a joke about you're walking down the street one day and you step in a bear trap, because that's what it's like. And for me, I'm somebody who's been in therapy for over 25 years. I have been very active in 12-step recovery for 40 years. I've been a spiritual teacher, practitioner, a shaman for 30 years. So it wasn't like I was just some out of control, screwed up empath who had no boundaries or self-control, and I, of course, attracted this very destructive individual. No, I was somebody who knew, I thought I'd seen it all. I thought I had experienced everything when it came to dysfunctional relationships, and it was as if I had stepped into a bear trap. I did not see it coming. That doesn't take away what got me into it. But from my perspective, I would have known better. I should have known better. I didn't see it coming. And the next thing I knew, I had my fingers in the Chinese finger trap. So the question, somebody had asked a question, and so I'm going to respond to that question. I appreciate the questions that people leave. Sometimes people leave comments, and I will expose that kind of thinking. I will expose the untreated codependence in that thinking. And so, you take your you take your life in your hands when you come onto my channel and you leave an unsolicited comment, remark, and sometimes even your questions. I will psychoanalyze you in front of the world. But I do that because if there's a comment or a question that gets my attention, it means that it's either something that I myself have felt, or it is a very common question, dilemma that people continuously talk about. So if you're asking the question, other people are thinking the same thing. So let's just get right into the question. The question is, somebody asks, where the heck did it go? Oh, I'm on the wrong page. That's why. Let me get on the right page here, and then we can read the question. All right. So this question goes like this. Hi, Mike. Can you elaborate further on how cluster B personalities sniff us codependents out? How can they easily distinguish between us and a healthy person within minutes? Besides the 4 things, is there anything I can do to avoid being targeted? And more importantly, start being targeted by healthier people? Is it our body language? Thanks. So that is a perfectly understandable question. So let me say to you, as I look into this camera, I don't worry about that at all. I'm not saying I won't be targeted by a borderline. Since my relationship in question ended over 1.5 years ago, I've run into at least 2. I even went on a few dates and had some sexy encounters with both of them. And also, very quickly, I came to realize, this is a borderline. I'm not going to be a part of this any longer. Thank you very much. And I did what I do, and I went no contact and suffered no ill effects from it, other than being reminded of, wow, that's just so unpleasant. But had I not been forewarned, those things which I saw immediately and went, I'm not getting involved with that, that would have been the very quicksand that would have pulled me in. So what's the difference between now and then? So the question, while it's an understandable question, assumes that there's something you have to do externally in order to spot them and then stay away from them. And that's a waste of time. That's like going out for an outdoor outing and trying to spot all the mosquitoes with your bare eyes. I mean, you can't do it. you're going to be attractive to mosquitoes, and mosquitoes are going to find you when you're not looking for them. You're going to get stung when you least or bitten when you least expect it. And borderlines and narcissists are the same. You are going to be going about your business, and it's not going to be that, oh, I think this one's a narcissist, but I'm not sure. I think she's got a borderline. Yes, no. Before you know it, you're going to meet somebody. It's going to be wonderful, and then the next thing you know, you're going to be stuck in a bear trap. And as I said in the previous, in many videos, I've said, borderlines can sniff you out. That there are red flags. They give you red flags from the moment that you are connected to them. From the first moment. I don't care what you say. Like me, you go, no, that's not true at all. They act very normally, and you can't tell until it's too late. No, you know from the beginning. You're just not aware of it or being honest with yourself. So the assumption of this question assumes that you need to figure out how to spot them and how to avoid them. And even the question, which I understand, but is kind of it's a frighteningly sad question, that you have to actually start being self-conscious about your body language. Is my body language, is that it? Is it, should I always have this one eyebrow up? Will that be the thing that makes them go away? Should I have a scowl on my face? Is it the way that I hold myself? Is that? No, it's not. Nothing that's superficial. It's your state of being internally. So you answered the question. You said, besides the four things. So that makes me ask you, are you doing the four things? Because if you're doing the four things, there would be no reason for you to ask besides the four things. Now, I don't know. Maybe you are doing the four things. It isn't an unreasonable question. But the source of the question is coming from the fear, which is understandable as well. The fear that, like you're out in the woods and there's a grizzly bear out there, there's a man-eating grizzly bear, and you want to know, should I be wearing a stake around my neck while I'm walking in the woods? Somebody would say, no, that's going to attract grizzly bears. I would not walk around with a raw, bloody stake around your neck. That is a bad idea. So you're asking me that question. Is there something I can do? Do I have a raw, bloody stake? Do I have a target on my forehead? Do I need to wear makeup on my forehead? It's nothing that's superficial. What borderlines and narcissists can intuitively sniff out, and bear in mind, they don't do this consciously. The borderline doesn't wake up in the morning and say, I am going to find an empath to feast upon today. And that person, with my magical, and they do, they have magical intuitive powers. I'm being pretty serious about that. They don't say, I'm going to use my magical intuitive powers to find the weakest victim that I can feast upon. They don't do that. They go after just doing what they know how to do, just like you do. And, attraction to another person is far more than the superficial. In fact, there's never going to be a time where you walk into a room in a party, hopefully when COVID finally dies down, whenever that's going to happen. You walk into a room at a party, there's never going to be a time when you're like, yeah, I'm going to look for the person that has the right body language. No, I don't like that person's body language. If you don't like their body language, it's because their body language is revealing something inside of you. You can't cover it up. So if I say to you, yes, you have to stand there with your arms like this and have a scowl on your face, it won't matter. Because underneath that, your sense of yourself and your identity and your relationship with yourself is going to be evident to everybody in the room. If you're a codependent victim, everybody's going to know it. They'll have a different reaction. You walk in and you're a needy codependent, some people are going to be turned off by that. Some people are going to have no response to it at all. Other people are going to find it attractive. So the answer to your question isn't, is there something that I can do externally, change my behavior, change my posture? Is there something I should look? That's a waste of time because it won't matter. You can, look, all you have to do is go online or go onto YouTube and just type in super empath. You will find no shortage of videos telling you how to avoid the narcissist, how to destroy the narcissist, how to make the narcissist love you, the thing that defeats all narcissists. I mean, there's no shortage of people out there telling you all of these superficial things that you can do to avoid, destroy, not attract. None of it works. It's all nonsense because all of that superficial stuff doesn't change your internal state of being, which only comes about through hard work. So you've already answered your question. The reason why I don't spend any time worrying about, am I going to attract a borderline, is because I've done the 4 things. And as I said, it doesn't mean that I think that, I'll never run into them again or never even go on a date with one again. That's perfectly possible. But because of the healing and the growth that has happened within me at this state, at this point in time, bear in mind that could change in the future if my circumstances and my reaction to my circumstances change. But at the moment right now, I'm not worried about it. And that's because I'm doing the 4 things. So what are the 4 things? The answer to your question is, besides the 4 things, there is nothing besides the 4 things. If you want to be bulletproof from narcissists and borderlines, do the 4 things. And even if they are attracted to you, you will have the wherewithal to see it and to walk away from it. So what are the 4 things? Again, these are the things that I recommend that everybody do if you have been in a relationship with a borderline or a narcissist, even if you've been out of that relationship for years. My experience is you have to do these 4 things if you want to heal. So number 1, you go no contact. Going no contact means that you completely make it impossible for the narcissist or the borderline to communicate with you. That means you throw your phone away if you have to, you get a new phone, you move, and you don't leave a forwarding address. You move to another state, another country, another city. You block them on every single possible means of communication, whether it's email, phone, Facebook, Twitter, you do not go and look them up. You block them so that they don't come up on your searches when you're on Facebook or whatever else. Going no contact does not mean not calling them today. It means that you make the decision in your mind that you will do absolutely everything humanly possible. You will die trying. You will make it impossible for them to contact you. Why do I say it like that? Because I've been there. You're not talking. Listen, I know. When people come on and they'll say, listen, I've gone no contact, but we still share an apartment together. Or we've gone no contact, but she still comes over to my house and leaves notes. Well, we've gone no contact, but we have a kid together. That's telling me that you're giving yourself excuses to stay in contact with them. Now, the thing about having a kid together is a big deal. So don't get me wrong about that. I'm not being superficial about that or cavalier about that. But there are ways to avoid contacting them. That's what lawyers are for. So don't give me any excuses about you can't afford a lawyer. I'm sorry to hear that, but you chose to have a child. You chose to have unprotected sex with somebody who you probably knew was not wrapped all that tightly. You very likely chose to have unprotected sex with somebody who maybe said to you that if you don't have a child with me, I'm going to leave you, or you had that feeling. So don't give me any excuses. You're not a victim. You chose to have a child with a borderline or a narcissist. And the fact that you don't have the money to afford a lawyer, the universe doesn't care. You are now responsible for your choices. So get a lawyer and have the lawyer do all of the, the schedule making and interacting between you and the other parent. If you aren't able to get full custody, I recommend getting a lawyer and going to court and getting that child away from the untreated borderline. Because the fastest way to create a borderline is to have a child raised by one. That's how they're made. That's how your borderline was created, and you are creating one if you choose to allow your ex to co-parent with you. If they were destructive enough that you had to leave them and divorce them, then you need to be the man or the woman and stand up and take full custody of that child. That is only going to get done through a lawyer. Having said that, if that is for whatever reason impossible, or if it's already too late and they're already 10 or 12 years old or something like that, the damage has been done, then you use a lawyer so that you don't have to interact with them. So when you go no contact, you go completely 100% no contact. And what's important about that psychologically is that it assumes that you really are looking at, not only am I not seeing them, I'm choosing to never, ever, ever contact them or have contact with them ever again. That is why people make excuses. That's why they give excuses why they won't go no contact, or that they can't go full no contact, or it's complicated, because underneath that, they still want contact. And I'm telling you, I've seen this. There's somebody that I know whom I respect a great deal who still is in regular, continuous contact with their borderline ex, and it has devastating effects on their physical health. Devastating. So I'm not kidding around about that. You don't go no contact. You're not done. You haven't faced the reality of the situation. You do not understand who you're dealing with. Again, if saying I can't go no contact for whatever reason is like saying, yeah, I have nuclear waste in my living room, but I can't leave. I mean, it's my apartment. I signed a lease. So, is there anything I can do to sort of shield my bed from the toxic waste? No, there's nothing you can do. Any contact, even if it's the idea that the contact could reawaken at any point in time, is a pipeline connecting you to the toxic waste. It will destroy you, even if you, for the rest of your life, if you never see your borderline ex again, if you haven't made the decision in your mind to absolutely make it impossible for them to find you. If you have not made that decision, then you have left the energetic, unconscious doorway open, and you still have them introjected in your brain, influencing you. So that's why, number one. And if somebody isn't willing to go full no contact, then I know that they aren't really serious, or they're not able to let go. So that's number one, you go no contact, complete no contact. Number two, you work all 12 steps of, and I'm just going to pick one 12-step group, CODA, CODA.org. Let me get all these out here before I launch into it. Number three, you simultaneously work with a therapist who understands cluster B personality disorders. And then number four, which is really just step 11, you do some kind of daily spiritual meditative practice. These are the four things. These are not negotiable. Now, again, this is my opinion. This is my opinion based on my experience. This is what I did, and I am 100% 100% healed from that borderline relationship, which at the end of that relationship, I was suicidal. I didn't think I was going to survive. If you watch some of my first videos, you might even hear me say something to the effect of, I think I'm broken. I'm not broken anymore. But there are people who have been out of their relationship for a year, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years or more, and they're still broken. You can lie to me all you want. I can see it in your comments. You can't hide it from me. I know all the signs because I've had it. It takes one to know one. And so that's why the last guy wanted to get me to somehow go, okay, I'm 99% healed. I'm not 100%. I'm only 99. No, I'm 100% healed. If I wasn't, I would tell you. I'm not 100% healed from the damage that my mother did to me. In fact, just the past week, I've been having a lot of feelings and crying over some really devaluing things that my mother did. I'm finally in the space in my recovery where some of those feelings are coming to the surface. So I'm not completely healed from my family of origin issues, and I probably never will be. But I am 100% healed from that relationship. Okay? So these 4 things are not negotiable. And unless you've done them, unless you have done them, like let's talk about step number 2 or thing number 2. Thing number 2 is you after you make the decision and you are in the process, if not completely, totally no contact with your borderline or narcissist ex, then you must work all 12 steps with a sponsor. So I didn't put that in there, but you have to do it with a sponsor. So I don't care if it's CODA, I don't care if it's Alcoholics Anonymous, Cocaine Anonymous, Sex Anonymous, Adult Children of Alcoholics. I seriously don't care. There's so many 12-step groups out there. What is important is working the 12 steps with a sponsor and then sponsoring somebody else. If you haven't done that, you haven't done thing 2. And so when people want to skimp on that, and then, this is what the guy did, I talked about yesterday. What people want to do then is before they've even done that, they want to argue with me about whether or not this is the only way to do things. And the example that the guy used last time was like religion. Religion is, there isn't just one God for everybody. So there isn't just one way to heal. I'm telling you, in my experience, based on what I've seen and what I've gone through and what I've done, this is the only way. Does that mean there isn't another way? Of course not. But until you've done this thoroughly, and then if you're still not healed and you found something else, you found a blue pill to take and it fixed you, then you have something to talk about. But until you've done it, you have no idea. You have no idea what it's like to be on this side of it if you haven't done that. So don't waste your time trying to argue with me about, is this the only way? I seriously, I didn't make this up. This isn't like I'm some, guru that's come out of the sky and here's this magical new thing that's never been done. I'm not. I am doing what somebody told me to do. This is what I was told to do. If you want to heal, this is what you got to do. So I did it. It worked. It took me 2 months. It might take you longer than that because, again, you don't have 40 years of 12-step experience, perhaps. And, you may have been married to yours for 10 years, so the damage might be even more intense than what I went through. So it might take you longer than 2 months. It might take you 6 months or a year. It might take you a couple of years until you're 100% over it. But you will become 100% healed, in my experience, if you do all of those 4 things thoroughly like your life depends on it, because I'm telling you, there's a good chance that it does. Like I said, I'm watching with my eyes. I am watching what's happening to somebody who has it all together, whom I respect in every way, who has chosen not to go no contact, and their life, they are literally fighting for their physical health and their life as a result of it. So, besides the four things, what do you mean besides the four things? The four things aren't enough for you? That's not enough? Putting all of your spare time and effort and energy into doing, because it's going to take that. Listen, just going no contact, not having them or being in a place where you're not in contact with them is not no contact. And that doesn't take all of your effort. If you were as entrenched as I was, and I know there are people who are even more entrenched than I was, if you are as entrenched as I was, then it will take every single ounce of your energy to make that decision to absolutely make it impossible for them to contact you. It will be the most painful, frightening, difficult thing you've ever done. It will feel like it's killing you. Half of you will know that's what you need to do, and the other half will say, but what if they go to counseling? Yeah, but what if I could just have one more night, if I could just get them to understand, if I could just sit him or her down and just get her to understand, if they need to be, I've been there. I know that's why you don't go completely no contact, because there's a part of you that still wants something. You're still wanting resolution. You're still probably wanting them. It's not like I'm incapable of understanding the feeling of, wow, if we could just get rid of my borderline's ex, all of her borderline stuff, then we could get together. I'm still aware of that. That feeling is still there. But I'm obviously not being driven by that. But there was a point when I was, and going no contact was the absolute opposite of everything that my insides wanted to do. So what do you mean besides that? It's going to take everything you have to do just that first part. The way that you follow up, and sort of like, if it's like you're building this wall, right? And then you're using cement to go no contact. But until the cement is dry, the zombie can walk through and kill you. So you have to make sure that cement dries completely so that nothing can get through it. And to make that happen, to dry and cure the cement, then you have to do thing number 2, which is to work all the 12 steps with a sponsor. That's going to take all of your effort as well. With a sponsor, sitting down with whatever literature you use and writing out that 4th step inventory, writing down the columns of your resentments of them and everybody else, who did what to you and why it hurts, and what are the self-centered character defects within you that got you resentful in the first place. What were your attachments? What were your needs, your agendas? Getting honest with your selfishness and your narcissism. That's going to take all the effort that you have. You got more time to do something else. You won't have any time worrying about if you're going to get targeted by a borderline if you're working that 4th step. If you're writing down, I'm mad at mom because when I was 4 years old, she hit me over the head with a spoon. It affects my safety, my security. What's my part in this? What do you mean my part? I didn't do anything wrong. I was just a 4-year-old kid. Just going through that's just one line of the 4th step inventory that I've made up. Just doing that is going to take all of your effort, and then all the feelings that are going to come up. There's going to be no space in you to be wondering, I wonder if that borderline next door knows I'm here. You're not going to have any space in you. And then when you've worked all 12 steps, there's going to be a shift within you. And then to further continue with your healing, you will then listen to somebody else. When they come in and they're at step 1 and they give you the bullshit excuse about, I can't go no contact because, we share an apartment together and, we're still friends and we still have, you're going to have to then do what I do and put your head in your hands and sift through all of their denial and their bullshit. And that's going to take all of your energy, and when you hear it, when you're at the other end of it, and you hear somebody give you all the bullshit excuses and you can see right through it, and you shake your head, you're going to look and you're going to go, that was me. That's still me. Oh my God. So, I mean, every time I make a video, it gives me another inch on that brick wall between me and the narcissist. So you're not going to have any time to do something else, to figure something else out. Working with a therapist to understand all of your childhood issues, becoming conscious of that. That's going to take up all your time and your energy. To answer your other question, what do I need to do to attract a healthy person? You have to get healthy. So if you're sitting there thinking, I'm going to be all messed up, but I'm going to attract a healthy person, guess what attracted you to the borderline the first time out? How wonderful and emotionally available they were, and how intuitive they were, how insightful they were, how able they were to get into your feelings and experience your feelings. You had the experience that they were conscious and they were loving and they were spiritual and they were intelligent. And they usually are all of those things. And so if you're not going to do the work to actually become healthy, then you're going to mistake somebody who's not healthy for being healthy. And there's no amount of superficial things, body language, posture, self-help books, super empath videos, even my channel. There's no amount of watching my channel that's going to give you the ability to not be attracted to a borderline if you yourself haven't done the work. This is why, I called bullshit on that guy yesterday who lauded me, who praised me as my brilliance in explaining, and therefore he didn't need to go to Coda because all he needed was my brilliant videos, which is pure nonsense. That was just his way of saying, I don't want to go to Coda meetings and I don't want to work the steps, and don't tell me to do it. But he was being a good codependent and trying to turn me into a narcissist and kissing my ass so that I would go, you're right, you don't need those damn meetings. I'm all that you need. I'm everything. I am the pinnacle. I'm not. I'm a screwed up codependent just like you. There's no difference between me and you, except I've done all the four things, and I continue to do the four things. So, to answer your question, let me answer your question point by point here, just to belabor it, because you asked me to elaborate. How do they sniff us out? Does it matter? This is a very good question. How and why are controlling questions. So let me get to something else I hadn't expected to get here, but your question brings that up. I learned a long time ago that whenever I ask the question why, when it comes to another person, why do they do that? I realized that I was trying to control them. In fact, it kind of amazes me that I figured it out as early as I did. This was a really long time ago. But I remember I was thinking about a girlfriend. I'm sure it was a girl that I was dating who didn't want to date me or didn't want to have sex with me or something. And I was torn apart and I was in a lot of pain over it. And I was asking, why? Why won't they be with me? Why do they, and then I stopped and I said, this question, what's the point of this question? Somehow if you figure out why they don't want you, that's somehow going to give you some ability to talk them into it. That's what I realized. I thought if I knew why she didn't want to be with me, then I'd be able to convince her to be with me, and then I stopped. What am I doing? I'm trying to control another person. She has the right to not want to be with me. Just so what? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter why. It doesn't matter how. How do these women or these men, how are they able to sniff you out? It doesn't. That knowledge doesn't help you. If I tell you what it is that they can unconsciously sense your pain, your misery, your unresolved childhood issues. They can sense your need and your longing for attention. They automatically relate to your childhood pain and trauma because they share it. They don't even know. It's just like this vibe that they pick up on. If I tell you that, which is absolutely the case, that is not going to give you any power to resist them. nor is it going to give you any power to make them not want you. What makes them attracted to you is your unresolved emotional state of being. So if you want to make yourself unattractive to them, then you have to resolve that, because when you get boundaries, and boundaries are a result of being individuated, of having worked through the issues, which is what the 4th step of the 12 steps do. They all do it, but the 4th step for me especially. When you do that 4th step, you will resolve the issues internally. It doesn't mean the pain won't go away, but you will have a much clearer awareness. They won't be driving you. So one of the things that I learned when I did my 4th step the first time, when I wrote down all of my resentments and what it affects, and I looked at my selfish, self-centered character defects that got me in a position to be resentful towards somebody, even if I was the victim. When I looked at that, I became aware that up until that point, I thought I was in control of my actions. I thought that I was the one deciding when I got angry. If I was resentful and feeling self-righteous or indignantly, whatever it is, condescendingly self-righteous and correct in my anger about something, I thought that was my choice. And then after doing the work, I realized that I was being completely controlled by my unconscious, unresolved attachments, agendas, expectations, and that I was the one that dug the pit and put in the bear trap and then stepped in it. You don't know that until you've done the work. But once I did that, then that shifted everything. And in every situation, every challenging relationship that has resentment attached to it, you can do this same thing, do a 4th step on it. In fact, when I find myself walking around my house, as I do quite often by myself talking out loud, which I do a lot, when I find myself talking about what I should have said to somebody, or what this person, and if that happens for more than a day, then I realize I need to do an inventory. I need to do a 4th step on my resentment because it's controlling me. So it doesn't matter how, because they can. They can sense your unresolved, unhealed wound, and they want to feast on it, as do you. That's why you're attracted to them. The other side is you can sense them too. When you're in the room and there's that person that is just so exciting, and she's just, oh my God, that cute little, those big shiny blue eyes, and yeah, she's 30 years younger than me, but of course she's attracted to me, and she's the only one. She's the only 20-year-old that actually sees how attractive I am at 58. And of course, no, it's different. She's different. She's special. No, she's got daddy issues. Right? All right, so how they sniff us out, that's how, but it doesn't matter how, it won't give you the strength to resist it. And again, besides the 4 things, there is no besides the 4 things. There's the 4 things. And the rest of it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what mood you're in, it doesn't matter what you think. You can be happy, you can be sad, you can feel confident, you can feel insecure. Those feelings are completely meaningless. You can walk in and have good body language, or you can have, you can have submissive body language. None of those things is what is going to attract them. They're attracted to narcissists, the most confident person in the room. They're also attracted to the damaged, wounded little kitten. They're attracted to all of it. But what drives it is your health, your emotional, psychological health. And the good news is that if you aren't healthy yet, there is an inoculation. The vaccination is doing the 4 things with everything you have. When you do the 4 things with everything you have, you're bulletproof. Because even though you haven't completely individuated yet, you're in a vibration that is toxic to them. It's toxic to their mental illness. They don't want to be around somebody who's working on themselves. In fact, you find this with, in codependent relationships, for example, like if you've got a codependent who's living with, let's say, an alcoholic, or you've got two alcoholics living together, right? If one of them decides to go to AA and start working the 12 steps, even though they're not at all completely healed by a long shot, just by them doing that will make the other alcoholics so uncomfortable that they'll either try and force them back into drinking again or they'll leave. So if you want to wear an inoculation that will scare away all of the borderlines, do the 4 things with everything you have. Even if you're not healed yet, it will drive them away. And then eventually you will get to a place where you're not worried about it. But you'll have to keep doing it. I have to keep doing it. Again, I was in 12-step work for 40 years. My fiance, who was my soulmate, if there was a one and only soulmate, it was her. And she passed away, and it devastated me. And because of that, even though I had all of that recovery in me, because of that, it stimulated even deeper wounds with my mother, which came to the surface unconsciously. And that's what, she saw me. She looked at me, online. She just saw my picture and she knew that's the one. And she even told me, "You're the one. I've had a psychic vision and you're the one." So I still have to do the work, just like you guys. These 4 things, if you choose to do them, will probably be something you'll have to do for the rest of your life. Because you have within you some codependence, which, it's sort of like an illness that you can arrest, but it's always there, and it can always be stimulated. It's like having, once you get the chicken pox, this is why people get shingles. It's always there. It's sitting in your, the root of the nerve, and when your immune system falters, then it eventually comes out again. Your codependence will come out again, unless you're doing the work to prevent it from flaring up. All right, so I think I beat that horse to death. I'm happy to see if there's any questions you guys have. No, nothing? There's only 15 people watching. Let me refresh the page. Page is refreshing. Hang on. Nope, that's it. Nothing else. All right, then. There's my answer to the question. What can we do to keep the borderline from being attracted to us, or from us to be attracted to them? Or more importantly, what can we do to attract healthy people? I think I've answered that question to the best of my ability. Anyway, that's it. I hope you're doing well. Stay safe. And I will see you guys next time. Let's see, where am I going here? Looking for a good end screen. So give me a second here. It's got my other channel stuff on here. Here we go. Let's try this one. Whoops.